everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Josh, my friend, are you excited for the Uncharted movie?
You know what, right? I'm pleased we're doing this video because I actually really am. A leg slapper, knee tapper. I'm really excited for the Uncharted film. I've been looking forward to it for a while, and I'm so ready to ambush you with this today so we can talk about it.
Okay, so let me dash your hopes, or at least I'll tell you where I'm coming at with this, because my thing, when they initially said it was going to be Mark Wahlberg, back in the day, Mark Wahlberg was going to be Nathan Drake, and I was like, what the living hell are you doing? Make it Nathan Fillion, you idiots. And they didn't, and then Nathan Fillion got out there and did his own fan film, which was fantastic, absolutely brilliant, what it totally should be. Man is the right age to play an older Nathan Drake. Look at Uncharted 4, the text is right there, make a movie of it, you idiots. And they didn't do that either. And then they got Tom Holland in, and they said, right, Sony are like, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do young Nathan Drake, because everybody wants that, apparently, and we're going to do Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. I said, look, I love Tom Holland. I love Tom Holland a lot. I adore the man, but I don't want him to be Nathan Drake. He's not Nathan Drake. Now, I know you can come in and defend this, they've now confirmed that the Sully, Mr. Big Bad Sully,
yep.
Sully the man who can pull off a cigar with a Hawaiian shirt and be the coolest mofo in the world, is Mark Wahlberg.
All right.
Why?
Questions. One, how does Mark Wahlberg, in his busy schedule of snacking for an hour and a half a day, get time to make a film? But also, that casting, in my opinion, does kind of suck. I don't hate Marky Mark as much as a lot of people do. And I feel like, looking at his role in Pain and Gain, for instance, he could potentially do something similar to a younger Sully, who is still headstrong, very confident, very cocky.
Yes.
At the same time, he would not be in my top 5 shortlist of people who I wanted to play this character, especially opposite Tom Holland, who I actually think is a good casting. If you're going for a young Nathan Drake, if you're trying to do something completely different from the games, I think that's quite cool. Tom Holland is obviously very good. He has great comedic timing. I love him in Avengers Infinity War. I think he's one of the most emotive actors in that movie. He's subtly so good, so I feel like he does have a lot of range.
Oh, he's stellar.
He is awesome, but I don't know about Marky Mark.
The thing with Mr. Holland is, we'll get onto Wahlberg, the quick thing with Holland is that I think he's so likable and so lovable, he's got so much energy, and obviously we know him as Spider-Man, but I wonder, putting him into this other role as this sort of quip-happy, sort of kind of roguish kind of charm, I don't think he has the look for it necessarily, and I think because he's so rounded and lovable and adorable, I think that's going to give it a completely different energy. And I said to you before we came in, I think it'll just be a male version of Dora the Explorer.
No,
and I don't think it's not going to feel like Uncharted. It's just going to be Holler the Explorer.
I don't agree.
Good.
I don't agree, right? Because we have only seen, brief snippets of a young Drake in the games, and I think Tom Holland could fit that role quite well. They are bad, right? Okay, they're not good. I'm digging myself a hole that I can't get out of. I'm just going further down. And then I don't have a Death Stranding chiral ladder to get out of this hole. But at the same time, I feel like when it comes to sort of video game movies in general, my opinion on it always is, after being burnt so many times about directors half-arsing it, trying to have their cake and eat it too by adapting the source material directly, but then making weird, divergences away from it, which you get this weird mesh where it's sort of for the fans, but it's sort of not, so it gets to a point where it appeals to absolutely no one. I know it might sound like, complete blasphemy to say this, but I'm actually quite pleased that Naughty Dog isn't really involved in the project, because it does give them a clean break. It might not be what we want as Uncharted fans, but I think that might allow the film to succeed on its own merits. Like, it can be its own thing, it can do its take on the original source material, because the games themselves, in my opinion, are good enough that I don't need a movie version of them. Like, I don't think a movie version could do those narratives and those characters better than the voice actors did or the motion mocap performers did.
Well, it's the exact same problem that Metal Gear has. I mean, I know Jordan Vogt-Roberts has apparently worked with Kojima on the Metal Gear script, and they're apparently trying to auction it and get it financed. But when you have a game franchise that is already so inherently, intrinsically cinematic, you don't need a movie. This whole idea just comes from this age-old assumption that video games have to chase film, that film is the end point of all art or whatever. And we can't make it a book form, so we've got to go and make it a film. And we don't need it. Video games long have surpassed film, or have been able to, in terms of cinematographical presentation. You can shoot a cutscene like a film, and then inject some gameplay, and it's right alongside it. This is besides my thoughts on games surpassing film. This is a separate thing. But in terms of what an Uncharted movie can bring to the table, it's only really going to fall under the fact that we've already experienced what these characters should be in a cinematic way. To bring it back to Mr. Wahlberg, Wahlberg, though, his casting as Sully, it is worth sort of doubling down on the fact that this is going to be set in the younger timeline, the stuff from the beginning of Uncharted 3, which if you haven't played it, it does settle on a much younger Nathan Drake when he first meets up with Sully. Sully isn't the sort of like older man. He still has the Hawaiian shirts and the cigar, but he's not got like the older look, especially in Uncharted 4. So I think that's what they're trying to like cast someone to match up with, but it just, Mark Wahlberg's energy is not Sully energy.
No, I agree. I don't think Mark Wahlberg is a frustrating actor because he's often, pitted in kind of prestige films alongside blockbusters, and I don't ever think he's all that great in sort of either. He needs a really good, strong script and a really great director to get him to make like great performances. I love him in the Departed, for instance.
Yes.
When he's collaborating with Scorsese, but
he's a great like snarky half villain.
Yeah, he's a good half villain, which I think you can sort of apply to Sully. But personally, I can't see it, and it's only more frustrating because I think there are better choices out there that may have been overlooked. I wonder how much this had to do with him originally being attached to star as Nathan Drake back when David O. Russell was directing, because it does feel like a kind of hangover from that, being like, that didn't work, but we still got a role for you.
So with this thing, this whole report comes from Variety. Apparently that is the case. Apparently he did stick around or did want to be interested or was interested in the film production overall. So it kind of became this thing that he became Sully. I don't think he was well cast as Drake in the first place. I hated his casting as Max Payne. I love Mark Wahlberg, but I don't want him in video game movies. I don't know who I'd put him as, but it's not this. But in terms of potential alternate castings, we just came up with a couple that we thought might would be. We can just talk about in the comments. My first one was Matthew McConaughey.
I love this, right?
Because I think you can give him a cigar, you can pull it off. He's got a slightly different kind of twang than Sully, but I think he would own it, and I think he'd have the style and he's so dynamic on camera. He'd be great.
He's got like the swagger. It would be a very different Sully, like you said. It's not the Sully that we know from the video games, but at the same time, I think like you said, he has the swagger. He can pull off the sort of the shirts, especially.
Yes.
I can see him smoking a big fat cigar and doing adventures and stuff. I would love that. And to be honest, the Matthew McConaughey sort of renaissance, it kind of seems like it's over.
Yeah, the McConaughey is kind of gone.
Yeah, which is such a shame.
I imagine a scenario where you have that opening scene where young Nathan Drake is trying to break something out of a museum, and then he realizes that young Sully or younger Sully is also in the same vicinity, and then you do something, they get away with everything and whatever, and then, they meet each other, and then Mr. McConaughey in the full garb gets to say that he's Victor Goddamn Sullivan, and it would be brilliant. I think Mr. McConaughey would nail that. You mentioned Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson, yes.
A top shout.
I feel like no one really plays a mentor, or at least a disgruntled mentor figure, better than Woody Harrelson. He just sort of has that, you can tell that he has a heart of gold, but it's like in an exterior of pure just sort of cockiness and abrasiveness. And I love you really, but I'm going to give you a hard time.
He is watching.
He is watching, right now.
Yeah.
And like McConaughey, I think he has the sort of same disaffected swagger. I can see him sort of with a little mustache. You know what I mean? I feel like if anyone could pull off the mustache, it's him.
He'd be able to nail the tash, but I don't think he'd be able to do the little wig, the little, the bonnet that Mr. Sully has.
He doesn't need a wig.
Has Woody Harrelson ever had hair? I think every role he's had, he's been a bald man. He could be cutter.
He had hair in Soul, or?
Yeah.
Did he?
I don't know, to
go. Anything from that movie.
The mind's eye version of Woody Harrelson is a bald man from Zombieland, but not to worry.
Oh, what does Woody Harrelson look like? He had a wig. he had a wig in Venom. He had a wig. He had the big red wig.
Oh, that was. That's not a good thing to pull across in terms of like a visual comparison. Yes, in the post-credit scene for Venom, when he appears as Peter Cassidy and Carnage, he does eventually have a wig. But in terms of old mentor people, we also threw Liam Neeson in, who, provided he's not cancelled, can actually be potentially, thought of as a Sully figure. Because when he was in the A-Team, we can hopefully throw up a picture on the screen. He played Hannibal Smith, leader of the A-Team, and there's one shot of him because he did cigar, grey hair. Pinky orange shirt, nailed it.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, visually, from a sort of performance perspective, I think Liam Neeson could do it. I think that's a good shout. That would be the classic Sully though, which this film is obviously not trying to do. They're going for a younger version. But yeah, if this was about a grown-up Drake, I think Liam Neeson could very much do a classic version of the character.
I like the idea of it. And these last two, I disagree with you, JB. You put Chris Pratt.
Yeah, because. Let me try to justify this. Chris Pratt, very funny man.
Yes.
That's mostly what I've got. But at the same time, I think he could bounce off Tom Holland well. He didn't get really much time to, play around with him in the Avengers movies, but I do feel like they both are very funny people. They both got charming personalities. And Chris Pratt especially, I think, can counter Tom Holland's wholesomeness by being a bit of a dick and being a bit of a sort of,
I think he's too young.
Unwanted. He is.
Yeah.
But also like skewing younger in
He's
general,
got some
I
energy.
suppose.
I think he's got some energy. I think, like you said, those two together would be a completely different look, but they'd still be able to channel the characters. Your last one was Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes, right. Because I think Jake Gyllenhaal can pull off any sort of performance you want to give him. He can be smarmy, he can be charming, he can be absolutely anything. The man is a chameleon. But also, it's mostly because he's proven again that he has great chemistry with Tom Holland in Spider-Man: Far From Home, and I feel like they could bounce off each other so well, and you need that good chemistry between the two. You need to feel like they are essentially sort of father and son, and they can bicker and they can war, but they come back together in the end. And for me, that is just a great pairing that I just want to see more of in general. You can tell they have fun working together. Jake Gyllenhaal is potentially my favorite actor, like, working today, because he is just so good. I've not seen a bad Jake Gyllenhaal performance.
No, you're not wrong.
He might have been in bad movies, but he's always excellent, and I just think he complements Tom Holland quite well. And if they're going for a younger version of the character, I think he fits it perhaps more than Mark Wahlberg.
Speaking of good pairings and great chemistry and what they're going for, that's not what you're going to be getting, because it'll be Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland. That is confirmed. That is from Variety. That is what the Uncharted movie will look like, and I'm already disappointed.
You know what?
Go on.
Right, we have gone through so many iterations of this movie.
I thought you were going to be like, we've been friends for years, and I've never been more disgusted.
Never been more disappointed. Also that, but also nothing's ever set in stone when it comes to the Uncharted movie. We've been through about 5 different directors. I've been waiting for this film for about 10 years. It might finally get off the ground, but genuinely, all of this could come crashing down tomorrow, knowing so.
As a final thing, if you haven't seen Nathan Drake's Uncharted movie, just Google that, or YouTube that, sorry, and watch the Nathan Drake fan-funded Uncharted movie where he just does the best Uncharted movie thing ever.
The Nathan Fillion one.
Yes, the Nathan. What did I say?
Nathan Drake.
Nathan Drake. No, he's in it regardless. Yes, Nathan Fillion's one. That's how much I love Nathan Fillion in the role. Is I think of him as Nathan Drake. But yeah, let us know what you think of this potential casting down in the comments below. Can Mark Wahlberg pull off Sully, or is it just plainly ridiculous Josh Brown? They'll let us know. For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time.
Bye.